Welcome in to Palmetto Sports Daily, everybody. Caroline Soro here alongside Julia, Tegan, and Summer. And gals, we have yet another weekend of disappointing college football to talk about here in the upstate. Specifically, let's start with the Clemson Tigers, who hosted Syracuse this weekend. It felt like it was going to be a get-back game from the Tigers, right, guys? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. It felt like, okay, loss on the road to Georgia Tech. Let's rebound. Let's get back in front of our home fans. But those of us who were looking on saw something similar to what we've seen the last couple weeks from Clemson, which was a slow start. I mean, the Tigers found themselves behind in a hole from the get-go, and they were never able to catch back up. So I'm just curious, anybody, your thoughts about what you saw from Clemson this weekend. Julia, I'll go ahead and start with you. I mean, what did you think about the Tigers from the beginning there, starting slow and then just not being able to rebound against a conference opponent in Syracuse?
Yeah, I mean, I think as somebody who's been watching Clemson for quite a long time, I mean, I went to Alabama. I remember the Clemson teams that beat my Alabama teams back in, 2015, 2016, 2017 era. It's very odd to see Clemson struggling like this and not be able to 100% pinpoint exactly why. For them to be sitting here 1-3 the first time since 2004, Dabo has never been 1-3 in his tenure as a Clemson Tiger head coach. It's very strange, and you're almost watching these games wondering what team you're watching, because this isn't exactly anything you've ever seen before. And you know that they have the drive, they have the want to win these games, but something's not working. And I don't know if it's chemistry, I don't know if it's preparation, I don't know what, but it's definitely a situation of they need to, sit down and figure out what's going on there. But they're sitting at 1-3 a quarter of the way through the season, and it's not anything we ever could have expected, Summer.
Yeah, I think you made a good point. We're not used to seeing Clemson struggle like this, but we saw Dabo Swinney blow up about it last week that, yeah, when you have this high of a standard, when anything less than that happens, fans are going to be upset. We're shocked too, but I think this is the nature of college football. And I'm not saying necessarily we're seeing the downfall of Clemson, because in the transfer portal era, well, if they want to do that, right, things could change within a year and things can change within a season. We've seen Clemson turn it around in a season, but also it's like the ebbs and flows, right? I mean, eventually things do change, and I don't think Clemson is just about to turn into like a Florida situation where after that national title run, it's going to be that bad, because I think they have a good program set, right? But I do think it's kind of like you're realizing they're not invincible anymore, right? And I know last week I said I don't think there's cause for concern for Clemson before the Syracuse game. I was like, you know what, they're still going to turn around, probably make it to the ACC title game. Now after Syracuse, I'm not so sure about that anymore. So, yeah, I think this past weekend does change a lot for them. We've heard this team over and over say we've got to play better, we've got to play better. We know what we're doing wrong, XYZ. We see the sad comments after games. And, yeah, it is shocking because we aren't used to seeing Clemson do this, like I said. But at some point, we're thinking, all right, who else is going to run this ACC? Tegan, I know you are probably the happiest with this one about your Syracuse Orange. But what do you think the fate of Clemson is? You've seen Clemson winning a lot, too, for the last more than a decade.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Clemson ruined my junior and senior year at Syracuse because we were doing great, and then Clemson comes in and completely ruins our record, and we go on a 5-game losing streak. But here's the thing about this Clemson team. I think Syracuse sat down, they watched the tape. They forced Cade Klubnik out of the pocket. They forced him to run over and over again. And look, I know a lot of the conversation this weekend was about Cade Klubnik talking about how Syracuse faked injuries, and this morning, Syracuse was fined $25,000 or $250,000 for doing that. But I mean, even if, that's proven to be completely true, Clemson had already lost the game at that point. So I don't think that, Clemson blaming Syracuse for doing that was the reason that they lost. The reason that they lost was because they didn't play well. And I was really hoping for Clemson's sake that they would have taken, that anger from last week's loss to Georgia Tech and taken it into this week and fixed what they were doing wrong, but it just didn't work out for Clemson.
Yeah, to your point, Tegan, I mean, we saw a lot of that anger there at the beginning of this week, right? From Dabo Swinney talking about if they're tired of winning, they can send me on my way. We all remember those comments from Tuesday, but we saw a different side of this entire thing, right? Kind of like the reality was seeping in, the disappointment, the emotion. I'm just going to let Coach do the talking on this one.
You talked about the pain in the locker room. ESPN kind of caught you at the end during the alma mater, being emotional. I guess what was going through your mind to the end of the game?
Just, I mean, disappointed, painful. I mean, hurt. I mean, I'm human. I mean, I'm not a cyborg. I mean, this is my life, man. I mean, I've been here 23 years. I love this place. I give this place the very best I got every single day. Every day. There's never been a day that I haven't given Clemson every ounce of everything I had. I hurt. I mean, I've invested my life here. And when I don't get the job done, I'm responsible. And I feel the pain. You know, it's not just my pain. I feel everybody's pain. And, you know, but that comes with my job. And I don't run from that at all. I mean, I've been in these situations many times. I've had a lot of great days, and this is a very, very low day. But I also know that we'll get through it. And there'll be a lot more great days, you know. Nobody wants to hear that in this moment, but that's what drives me is you know, being able to look back at different moments in my life and my career, certainly, and, you know, you got through it. You got better. You know, there's a lot of great days. So I just hurt. I mean, I hurt. I mean, I hurt, obviously, just because I take pride in what I do. I hurt for our team, hurt for our fans. And I certainly feel that.
Well, the only thing you can do right now, if you're Clemson, is to look ahead, put this behind you, use it, and keep going. It's a good thing that the bye week is coming up for the Tigers. I don't think that could be timed better for them right now. But I want to go back to what Tegan was talking about the ACC fining Syracuse for all of those fake injuries, as Cade Klubnik was talking about post-game too. I mean, if you're Clemson, a little bit of concern there because a backup quarterback, Steve Angeli, their quarterback, actually went out. That was an actual injury, a season-ending injury for him. If you're Clemson, you're a little concerned just about the fact that a backup quarterback, right, came in and hung 34 points on you. But in terms of the fake injuries, Tegan, I'll go back to you if you want to explain that a little bit more. Just talking about that $25,000 fine and what the conference was saying they saw from some of Syracuse's players there throughout the course of the game, disrupting the tempo, as Cade Klubnik said, for the Tigers.
Yeah, I mean, if you look, I think it was near the end of the game, you know, the alleged accusation here is that basically a couple of players and a coach, it looked like they got together right before this play that, you know, had to stop the clock because of an injury on the field. And whether that is legit, you know, I don't know if we'll ever know. This is a new rule this year in the conference about faking injuries and just the fines behind that. But yeah, I mean, there were real injuries in this game. Steve Angeli's out for the rest of the season now. You know, the Notre Dame transfer. Now Syracuse will be depending on Ricky Collins, the LSU transfer. But yeah, Ricky went out there and still, I mean, that also wasn't the issue Clemson lost. I think that a lot of, you know, this Clemson team right now is just kind of trying to put the blame on the other side of this. And, you know, I'm not just saying this because I went to Syracuse and everything, but it's just, it's a legit conversation of, like, why is Clemson looking at them instead of, you know, taking accountability on themselves right now?
Well, let's go ahead and hear what Cade Klubnik has to say about all of that as well, and speaks to your points about disrupting the tempo.
Yeah, I mean, we were doing it really all throughout the game. You know, we were doing it all throughout the game. We were playing with tempo, and, you know, props to them. They stopped us on some third downs and in certain times, and then, you know, they have an injury or something like that when we really got going. So, you know, that's up to them if they want to be honest about that. But, you know, that was just, you know, that was definitely tough for us to really get in rhythm, and we're playing fast, and then, you know, unfortunately they had to have a guy get hurt or something, so or a timeout or, you know, something like that. So, you know, hopefully everybody, I feel like we came out really healthy, and hopefully they did too. So, I love playing with tempo, and I feel like we did it really well, especially in the fourth quarter, but even in the first and second, and just got to continue to do that, and find ways to overcome, a delay, whatever it is. So.
Well, like Cade said, fake injuries, rain delay or not, you've got to be able to push past that stuff. We're going to push on to the break here. When we come back, we'll be talking Gamecocks football in just a few minutes.
Welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. Let's jump into some South Carolina talk. Of course, the Gamecocks going down to Columbia, Missouri, and falling to the Tigers 29-20 Saturday night. Just a poor showing across the board from the Gamecocks. I'm not one just to list off stats, but I think we kind of just got to do that today to get the point across. I mean, 293 total yards of offense, and the big glaring issue there, -9 net rushing yards. I'm not sure the last time I've ever seen a team do that, but additionally, 14 penalties for 98 yards. 6 of those penalties were false starts on the offensive line. You look at this and you just wonder, where was the preparation for something like this? And, still at the same time, they only lose by 9 points, but it's those small moments where you think you can make a comeback and they can't get it done. 3 of 11 on third down. And, there were some bright spots. Vandravius Jacobs, 7 receptions for 128 yards and a touchdown. Brian Rowe Jr., 3 receptions, 50 yards and a touchdown. You just want to see them string it together. And, of course, South Carolina, a team that gets off to slow starts under Shane Beamer. They are a last half team. They always win in November. That's their big thing. Remember November, but you're sitting here in September wondering where they can go from here. And I'll present these stats to you guys and get your opinion on this. In 4 out of his 5 years under Coach Shane Beamer, they've started 2-2, and in 3 of the last 5 years, they've had an 0-2 start in the SEC. So, Caroline, I'll start with you. Just what's your general takeaway when you hear that?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something to pause and make you think, right? I mean, there's no doubt that Shane Beamer's had success before. There's a reason that he's in this role, right? He comes from a lot of success with his father, but it is just interesting. I mean, to really sit there and look at that and think about the preparation. And in my brain, like, I'm going back to, listening to all of the pregame Shane Beamer comments, right? Just earlier in the week, talking about the preparation and talking about all of those things that you just rattled off that didn't end up panning out and happening, right? Like, the run game was one of them, and we can go ahead and, focus this run game on Lenora Sellers, right? I mean, Beamer was talking about, everybody's saying we're not running the quarterback. Like, these teams are smart. They know what we're doing, that type of thing. But then you watch the game on Saturday and it's like, okay, well, they're trying to run him kind of, but he's not getting anywhere. And part of that's because the defense, I don't know, but it does certainly, kind of pause and make you think, like, okay, we're saying we're going to do this, and this, and then those of us watching get to Saturday and it's like, well, there was going to be an emphasis on running the football, then you had -9 rushing yards. It's like, well, we talked about being, the offense being able to finish. Okay, well, the offense isn't able to finish and has a 3rd and out on a potential, game-winning, go-ahead scoring drive there. So, Tegan, I'm just curious about your thoughts about that too. I mean, what do you think, moving on from now, after watching what you watched on Saturday, do the Gamecocks need to correct and do to make sure they're not doing what they've done in the last couple conference games?
Yeah, I mean, they got to figure out how to move the ball. They got to figure out how they want to use Lenora Sellers, because right now it seems like we're at this weird in between where, like you said, Shane Beamer is saying one thing, here's what we're going to do. We're going to run the ball. We're going to do X and O. And then on the field, you just don't see that from Lenoris. And now whether that's Shane Beamer, not wanting to give away his game plan or whatever, I don't know. Or it's just him not being able to execute it. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not too worried about South Carolina right now. I'm way more worried about Clemson than I am about South Carolina as they kick off conference play. Julia, what do you think?
Well, I'll give Summer a chance to respond to this real quick before we move on to that. But Summer, what are you thinking about the Gamecocks?
Yeah, no, Tegan, I'm kind of the opposite. I'm way more concerned about South Carolina than Clemson. I mean, let's be honest, I think the ACC is stronger this year, but they've got an easier path. Where for South Carolina, I mean, come on now. You've got 2 SEC losses now. And like you said, yes, this is a late season team. They can turn it around, but it's going to be a lot harder for South Carolina to even think about winning the SEC than it is going to be for Clemson. I mean, to be real. And Lenora Sellers, yes, we've seen how elusive he can be. So I'm like, is this on Shula? Like, does he need to loosen the reins and let the guy play? Is this on even higher than this? Is this Beamer? I don't know. Lenore's actually made some good throws in this game. Julia, you talked about the Vandrevis Jacobs catch, which is on him too, but the run game is, it's concerning. And I know the offensive line had some issues too, so it's not all on Lenora Sellers. And the dude's also coming off some concussion speculation. So I can see where you're going to be a little, cautious in what you're going to let your quarterback do, but also you got to let the guy play his game. A quarterback like this, you've got to let him just let it go out there and be free. And I think you hear him talk after a game. He sounds calm and he sounds like it's okay. He seems like he has a good head on his shoulders in terms of confidence in this team. But I don't know. Something's got to change here. And I mean, maybe it's more than we know. I don't know, like, what everyday practice looks like for them. And like I said, it's all 11 guys on offense. It's not just on Lenoris. But yeah, I've been a little disappointed with just the offensive play calling as a whole and looking at South Carolina. And now you're looking at Kentucky. Now it's like it's a toss-up, right? I mean, South Carolina, I would hope they would bounce back for their sake against that game. But the SEC slate does not get any easier for them. So yeah, I think there's definitely cause for a lot of concern for South Carolina at this point. Julia?
Yeah, I want to note here as well some difficulties on defense. Of course, lots of missed tackles, especially near the goal line. That Ahmad Hardy touchdown, that was some difficult tackling that they just did not execute well at all. And, just want to see these guys really start to clean those things up as you jump into more games, like Kentucky coming up. That's a game this team normally doesn't lose. So we'll have to see what happens there. But we've got more college football coming up after the break.
Welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. We're going to stick with college football, and we're going to talk about, honestly, a really unexpected win for Coastal Carolina. They beat South Alabama 38-20, and I think if you had asked pretty much any Coastal Carolina fan if the Chants were going to win this weekend and if Tim Beck was still going to be here, I think their answer would have been no. But they did end up coming out on top, and they did so without any turnover, something they had not accomplished in their previous 3 games. They forced 3 turnovers from South Alabama. They also turned a strip sack into a touchdown. So Coastal Carolina really coming out in a surprising way here. Tad Hudson once again under center for the Chants. You're looking at MJ Morris there, but he was actually benched as the starter, after a couple games ago. Tad Hudson has been able to get the ball moving for them. His numbers weren't phenomenal. He was 13 for 25 for 112 yards. But, he got them somewhere. And Tim Beck really, really excited after that win.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so proud of our guys right now, a lot of negativity, a lot of noise out there. They just kept fighting, they just kept believing in themselves and believing in the coaches and realizing it's a process and it takes some time. And, we improved. We got better. We didn't turn the ball over today. And look what happened. They did and we didn't, and we won the game. Like, it's proven. And we did a really good job, but I just can't say enough. The way the guys played and believed and worked hard and trusted, and I knew once it kind of caught, it would catch. It just needed to catch, and it did.
Coastal 2-2 on the year now, and they're 1-0 in conference play, which, again, this is the part of the season that matters. So, I mean, if we want to forget about those previous 3 games and Coastal wants to be this team that they were in the second half versus South Alabama, then this is a different team to talk about here. But I know that the Citadel was also out in the field over the weekend.
Yeah, Tegan, nice to see them, just some positivity around that Coastal program. You don't like to see these teams keep struggling, but the Citadel Bulldogs, they were blanked at home against Mercer. It was their SoCon home opener. They lost 38-0, so now they're 1-1 in SoCon play. Luckily for the Citadel, though, they've played much better on the road, so they had 2 Chattanooga this weekend. But, yeah, definitely some concern for the Citadel. They haven't been able to figure out their quarterback situation. Their starter, Dustin Fletcher, went out hurt before the start of the season, and then Kobe Tompkins, who was going to get the start, he he ended up being out this week. So they knew this is a young offense, but I want to just read this for you. They only had, I think, a little over 100 total yards of offense. Let me take a look at this one where Mercer, they had 194, so almost 200 yards of total offense, but Mercer had 457 total yards of offense. So they knew the offense was struggling, but for head coach Maurice Drayton, he said the big concern was he didn't see enough out of his defense, at least that he's seen from them the past few weeks. Here's what he had to say today.
But I was disappointed defensively this week in our physicality. We didn't play with the same tenacity. We didn't play with the same fight, that same drive. And that's bothersome as a coach, especially a coach who is a defensive-minded guy.
Yeah, you know, a defensive guy is going to be upset with that. He said they're going to focus on more effort, mindset, physicality this week in practice as they get ready to head to Chattanooga this Saturday. We have more to come here on Palmetto Sports Daily. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Welcome back into Palmetto Sports Daily. We brought you all the college stuff, but let's talk professional football here for a second. I mean, we cannot end our Monday without talking about the Carolina Panthers and their first shutout win since 2020. 30-0 shutout win, I should add, as well, over the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, it just felt like everything was complete on all three phases. The offense was cooking, had an opening drive touchdown. The defense was able to build on it. 3 total takeaways, 2 picks, one being a pick six and a fumble. And then special teams, of course, their kicker getting his career long in there. Got to show some special teams some love. But guys, before we go, I'm just curious, any comments on what this means for the Panthers?
Bryce Young season.
We are so
Everybody
back.
Just wait.
They're back.
Yes.
Can't wait to see what they do.
It's only up from here.
Exactly. All right, guys, thank you so much, and thanks for tuning in to Palmetto Sports Daily. We'll see you tomorrow.